I'm a big fan of CIS Controls. I'm a big fan of Twingate. So let's put our chocolate in the peanut butter and have some fun. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me today. I am super excited to share a product that I have been playing with. And then I'm super excited, as you know, I'm such a huge fan of CIS Controls, right? CIS Controls, it's that framework that does half the work for you. Well, okay, maybe not half the work, but at least it gives you that roadmap, right? CIS Controls is that framework that provides the implementation groups, and it creates a roadmap for you. It's perfect, whether you're a small IT company, very large MSP, or a very large IT company. It covers the bases. It takes that subjectivity out of your security and turns it into objective security, which I absolutely love. I could go on and on and on, but today I specifically want to talk about Twingate, right? Twingate. If you haven't heard of it, Twingate is the replacement for your legacy VPN. If you have heard of it, maybe you've seen some of the great online tutorials. You know, Network Chuck has one. Maybe looking at Twingate from a different perspective and how it relates to something like CIS Controls will give you that added, rounded out information. Or maybe before you spend some time installing it and configuring it, you really want to know what it could do for you. And so that's why I wanted to create this video, because again, big fan of CIS Controls, big fan of Twingate. So let's put them together. Let's put the chocolate in the peanut butter and have some fun today and have a look at what Twingate is going to do for us from a framework perspective. As I was going through it, and I knew I was going to make this video, I began to, percolate the ideas and the controls that might apply to Twingate. But then what I did after that is, as I began to compare CIS Controls and each of the safeguards to Twingate, it surprised me how many of the controls Twingate could actually speak to, or facilitate is maybe a better word. And I think one of the first ones that was something I didn't actually think of until I started reading through CIS Controls and the different safeguards in regard to Twingate was inventory control. Now, if anyone has used Twingate, you're going to say, whoa, easy, Eddie. It is not an inventory system. And I agree totally. It is not an inventory system. It doesn't pretend to be an inventory system. That being said, when you begin to look at Safeguard 1.3 addressing unauthorized assets, well, guess what? When you look at Twingate and the way that it is very granular about the access that it provides, endpoints or in resources, right? It begins to become very, very apparent that you have a comprehensive inventory of who is and what is authorized. Okay, so specifically around inventory, let's have a quick look. So inside of Twingate, and if you haven't seen it before, this is the interface, right? This is my network overview. It's an absolute delight to work in here. It's very, very clean, very, very easy to set up. And inside of here, you can see the resources I've added. You can look at the devices, right? So in here, when you start to speak about the inventory safeguard, when you're talking about devices that are allowed to access your resources, you can see right here that there are 3 devices. I know exactly how many devices. I know exactly what they are. I know exactly the OS version. I know the client version. So I have a very detailed list of, or inventory of the devices that have access to my assets, right? And then from here, I can verify a device, I can archive it, I can block it, right? It further enhances the idea of device control. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's jump into something a little more what you'd expect when it comes to Twingate and how it speaks to CIS Controls, and that's data protection, right? First off, it's replacing your legacy VPN. And you should take it for granted that Twingate encrypts all the traffic end to end, reducing exposure to man-in-the-middle attacks, reducing exposure from port scanning. The list goes on and on. So the fact that it closes off some of the traditional ways that threat actors, get into your system, whether they, during that discovery phase, of course, they're scanning for open ports, and simply with Twingate, there just aren't any open ports. Now let's move to Safeguard 3.5 when we begin to look at enforcing access control to data. Now this is where Twingate really shines, right? When we start looking at devices and we start looking at resources, the granular control that you have provides a least privilege and identity-based access to sensitive data, right? The way you configure your resources, and then you can set policies for your devices, greatly limits that and pushes you along that trip down the zero trust path. All right, so that's enough talking about it. Let's have a look at it. So specifically around data protection, we can enforce access control to data and resources, right? So let's have a look. So talking about least privilege, specifically, let's have a look at some of the policy options. I love this. This is so intuitive. It's so easy. We can have resource policies inside of Twingate. We can have sign-in policies. We can have device profiles rather. So if I'm looking at a policy and I want to create a resource policy, I lied. Let's say I have a resource policy. Let's look at my test resource policy. It's actually simple to create them. You just hit it, you name it, and it creates it here. Now, if I want to further modify it, I simply click on it. And now look what I can do. I can have any device. I can do only trusted devices. I can do a custom device. And what's really, okay, this gets to be, so I get to geek out on this stuff. So when I click on create trusted profile, this is where it gets cool. Look at the control that you have on what kind of devices are able to connect to and view and use your resources, right? I mean, there are times where, a device might be offline for a while, or someone might, get admin rights to it, or they may have made adjustments to it. So if, they've turned off their hard drive encryption, if they've messed with their policies and there's no longer a screen lock, or perhaps they've disabled their firewall, or they've somehow managed to get infected and the infection has disabled their antivirus. There is an absolute ton of options here, like minimum OS version, right? And look how easy it is to flip on and off, right? They are just toggle switches and gives you that granular control. All right, explore this. There is such an absolute ton of control here, and we can turn off entire systems. So let's say we don't even want Macs. We're going to block every Mac, right? And none of our users happen to have iOS. So let's not even leave it to chance. So we're going to kill all of that. All right, so this is where we get to the finite detail around the least privilege, right? We get to that finite detail around security configuration, around managing network and security configurations, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We're dipping into Control 4, but I just wanted to show you where this begins to move. And in our future videos, we're going to talk about Control 5 and how account management works. And it looks like as we move along, we're also going to see not only how it helps you to adhere to CIS controls when managing your clients and your resources, but how Twingate also follows the zero trust and CIS control guidelines. Anyways, just a preview of what's coming to the future. Let's wrap it up with that. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll join you in the next one. Thanks a lot, and get secure.